Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Seale, and again, we are happy to be sharing with you guys in the area of teen entrepreneurship. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself. Okay, we've got another person coming to join us, and we're going to keep this thing rocking and rolling as she pulls in. Again, my name is Alex, and just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've worked for what I call the world's most caring company for the last 22 years, and that is Chick-fil-A. And so in Beaumont, I currently serve as the operating partner for both the locations here. I started probably, I don't know what the average age in the room is here, but I started working at Chick-fil-A when I was 14 years old on Saturdays, wiping tables and sweeping floors. And now I have the opportunity to partner with the owner in casting vision and developing our business there. Outside of that, I do own a couple of businesses. Number one, I am a podcaster, as you guys can see, and that business is called The Pivot Experience. We have a podcast, and we also do coaching and leadership development. And so I work with a lot of Chick-fil-A operators all across the state. I work with leaders all across the country to help them pivot into their next. And so that's a little bit about myself. Oh, in addition to that, my wife and I have a design studio here in town. If you guys are familiar with Beaumont, in the Academy, Tri Supply area, we have a design studio where my wife does interior design for houses here, Port Arthur, Houston, wherever. So I am joined today, and this is a special episode of the podcast because we're doing this live. I don't do many live on-site episodes, but we have a distinguished panel here joining us of other entrepreneurs talking about the things that they do. And so I'll give them the floor to be able to introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about what they do.
So I'll take it away. So guys, I am Kris Reynolds, born and raised from Port Arthur, Texas, right up the road. Really excited to be here, excited for you guys to be here. I founded a company called Drink Kicks, where we talk about sustainability in a cool cultural way. So we have a shoe made of apple corn, bamboo, rubber, plastic, have a basketball made of cactus. It's been a great experience. Literally has taken me to the Super Bowl. I'll be headed there next week, and it's a business trip just to get it done. And then I'm also really excited to do some real estate development. So I'm working to bring the first 3D printed subdivision to my hometown in Port Arthur to help be more climate resilient. And again, really excited to be here with you guys today and looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you.
How y'all doing? My name is Quin Gregory. I am from Beaumont, Texas. I did want to commend all you guys for coming in today because a lot of times people don't really choose entrepreneurship until later on, but just finding the fundamentals of what you need at such an early age is something that could really press you to the next level. So I definitely want to commemorate you guys for coming in and checking out everything today. Like I said, my name is Quin Gregory. I'm a licensed barber. I've been a barber. It'll be 5 years in August. I also custom build furniture. I've done commercial jobs for just different restaurants and places around Beaumont. I've been doing that for about 10 years. And that's me.
I'm Carli Graves, born and raised here, grew up in Lumberton, but live in Beaumont now for the last 5 years. I own a Pilates studio, excuse me, in the area. We have 2 locations called Penché Pilates. We have our main location off of Phelan in Beaumont and our other second location in Lumberton. We run probably 30 classes a week with 5 staff. We also have a wellness studio, sauna and cold plunge room. We offer reformer Pilates, mat Pilates bar, and yeah, it's been really fun. I've been doing that for about 4 years now. Stepped out of full-time ministry to start my own business, and it's growing, and we're making it happen. So
Excellent, excellent. So glad to have each of you guys here. And so I apologize to you, Miss Carly. I did not get a chance to get the questions to you,
Oh, that's okay.
but I'm sure you'll do fine. And my wife has been to your studio,
Oh,
so
really?
so she has participated in your services,
Amazing.
and she says that you guys do a good job there. So
Amazing. Thank
awesome.
you.
Awesome. So we've got a quick couple of questions here. And again, jot your questions down for each of these individuals here, because toward the end, you'll be able to ask those questions, and we'll go back and forth on that. And so the first question I have for you guys is, what sparked your entrepreneurial journey, and how old were you when you got started? When you started, yeah.
So I was really fortunate to grow up in a very entrepreneurial family. My grandfather was a developer, so I grew up in the house he built. So I like to say it was on the walls. So I started my first business at 6 years old. I was, literally selling Kool Cups on the corner. What makes it funny is I didn't know how to make Kool-Aid, so I was stealing my sister's Kool-Aid, freezing it, then selling it. So I had some supply chain issues, but we were making it work. But just got that experience. Went on to do other businesses in high school. When Kanye West shutter shades were really popular, I was the first in town to have them. I was buying them online for $2, selling them at school for 20. And it was just a fun experience, and taught me that it doesn't have to be hard. It's just the fundamentals, and so I'm grateful for those experiences now as I try to grow and scale and create a business that's going to hire people.
Awesome, awesome. 6 years old, getting it done. Yes, sir.
As far as entrepreneurship, it really started for me, I would say about 12 years ago. Just growing up, I always wanted to do some type of carpentry and whatnot. But my thing is that, I felt because I didn't have people around me to teach me that I wouldn't be able to do it. But in the age that we live in, the age of information now, you have your YouTube, you have your Pinterest and things of that nature. So instead of it actually being a person to teach me, I started actually watching videos and trying to learn how to do different things. So when I first got started, that was a lot of times it was popular to do pallet furniture, because we all know you can go to a dumpster. A lot of places, people are getting rid of pallets and they turn them into chairs, sofas, all type of different things like that. So for me, I understand a lot of times when you hear people talk about entrepreneurship, they think it's really something that's expensive. But for me to try it out, I said, well, this is something people are throwing away. Even if I mess up, it's still something that I won't lose money on per se. So I started doing that, and people just start having different requests of what they wanted to do, and I just started building from there. But another thing that really just led me into entrepreneurship was just that I was working at a chemical lab, and so with us doing invoices and things, I realized that the company I was working for was literally making millions of dollars per month. And so it's kind of one of those things that you can be under certain jobs and you can say, will this job outside of, 401k or saving and things like that, will this job teach me to make millions of dollars, in a year? And this is something that they make in a month. So once you actually realize that you're a person that can contribute to a company making millions of dollars per month, something inside you says, well, I might be closer than I think to really running up those type of numbers. So I just stepped out on faith and started my own business.
Excellent.
Yeah, I grew up as a dancer. Started dancing when I was probably 2, 3. My mom put me in really early. But I started teaching dance classes in like the 8th grade. So I was like 12, 13, teaching classes and teaching others how to, basically offering a service to little girls. And I did that all the way up until college. I moved to Australia, and did dance ministry there and taught at a local dance studio there. And then I came home. So I've always been teaching for since probably, like I said, 12 years old. And fitness and dance go really hand in hand, especially as you're growing in your talent. You want to be able to condition so that you can continue to do your talent well, longevity wise. So Pilates and bar was just like the next leg over to teaching dance. And fitness was always a part of that dance journey for me. So, yeah, I mean, I started at like a really young age teaching dance, and decided that I was, you have a window as a dancer. If you want to go pre-professional or professional, you have a small window. And then once that window closes, you're either a professional dancer or you're a teacher. And those are the two kind of landing pads that you have. So when I decided I wasn't going to go to LA to do the industry, and music videos and commercials and all of that, I decided I was going to teach. And that's kind of where it led me into that fitness realm a little bit more.
Awesome, awesome, very good. And I guess just to elaborate on myself, like I told you guys, I started working at Chick-fil-A when I was 14. And the high school that I went to is that it technically no longer exists. I went to Ozan High School here in Beaumont, and at the time it was an engineering magnet school. And so I took the bus cross town to pursue a job as becoming a mechanical engineer. And actually, I went to Lamar and started my engineering studies whenever I first got there. But in 2008, I went to a grand opening with Chick-fil-A, and they sent me to California. And then I started to fall in love with this idea of business, right? You know, watching an individual have an idea, solve a problem, and then being able to turn a profit from being able to do that. And so that's what's really got me into the area of entrepreneurship. In 2014, my wife and I opened a clothing store in Nederland. And I know, again, these cities and places you guys might not know, but we opened that store in Nederland, and we did very well there until we expected our second child, and then we had to kind of step away from the business because the pregnancy was a difficult one. But and then we started back up about 3 years ago with the design studio, and I've been podcasting off and on and coaching and consulting since then. And so that's my story. And so the next question for you guys is, what are some mindset shifts that you believe young entrepreneurs need in order to get their plan or get their business going?
We start off.
Yeah.
Biggest one, don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. This is a pivotal time where you want to make a ton of mistakes. You have people here to catch you if you fall. It's kind of like when you're in school. Everyone you call and say, hey, I want to shadow you for a day. I want to intern. I want to see what you want. Like, take this opportunity to learn and soak, but also take this opportunity to not be a perfectionist. Try different things. I always tell people, start. The time's going to pass anyway. So really just have the mindset that you can do anything. I live by the motto, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So go for it. And don't be afraid to pivot. It's not a failure. It's just a lesson, and you move on to the next thing. It's good.
That's real good.
Yeah, I think I'm actually piggyback off of you. You know, it is so true. I think a lot of times when we look on social media, you know, that's one of the things we all have, you know, some form of it, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Instagram, whether it be TikTok. And it's just that we're always in the face of perfection, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, we are humans, you know, we do have our lives. And you know, one thing about it is that just think about somebody you might see on social media. You know, the first thing you're gonna see is that they blew up overnight. You know, they live in this big house, they have this car. But the thing is that, you know, one thing I did while I was in Beaumont, a lot of times, and like I said, I understand everybody's in different places, but sometimes you can go to different businesses. You might have a new business. It might come from another city and develop in your city. But one thing I did was, there's a place called Warren's Donuts. And Warren's Donuts has been around since my mom was a kid. And so I actually took time to go talk to the owner. And, you know, he just let me know and kind of put me on game about how his donut business has been able to sustain over 50 years. So some of the places, it might not be the prettiest. You know, some of the employees that work there might be older, kind of mom and pop type situation. But when you actually look at the structure of a business, you can see maybe where they fell short, or where maybe, you know, something was going on in the economy or something was going on in the city. But these are the people that really, you know, in the long run, were able to suffice. So a lot of times, everything, what they say, everything that glitters isn't gold. So even if you make a mistake, it comes with the territory. A lot of times when they glamorize things on social media, they're never going to tell you what led up to their success. It's always just, hey, this young guy's a millionaire. Hey, they have this house, they have this crib. Right. So a lot of times when you study people, also study the downfalls. That's one thing whenever I first started building was, I always looked at faults, because sometimes people tell you, don't do this, don't do that. That way you can save money. It's kind of like if somebody tells you the stove is hot, you don't always have to touch it to verify that it's hot. You know, you have people that'll be around you, especially in your journey to become an entrepreneur, that can help to lead, to guide you. So don't expect things to necessarily happen overnight, but as long as you're consistent, you know, you'll definitely see the results.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like my advice is similar. I would say just start
Right.
and commit to it. My business is, we're running 2 locations, brick and mortar, like, $200,000 annually a year, but that's not where I started. I started with one machine, reformer Pilates machine, in my apartment, in my guest bedroom, and I built my clientele, and I was making $12,000 annually a year when I first started, and it wasn't glamorous at all. And over the last 4 years, you learn and you grow and you pivot. I started with bar classes before I even went into Pilates, and I realized that that wasn't that wasn't the need for the location that I was in, which was Beaumont. They wanted something a little bit more low impact, a little bit slower in pace, something that they could commit to. And so you just have to start, whether that's in your home or online, or if you want to start a storefront online, build a website first, like start somewhere, and then pivot where you need to pivot, and understand that maybe the service that you're offering isn't the service that is needed. Like, find the holes in the market. 4 years ago, there was no Pilates studio in the area, and Pilates has always been trending. I mean, on TikTok, you can see like Pilates Princess and all these different trends happening right now on Instagram. So you find the hole in the market, and you just become an expert in that thing. You invest into your certifications, become the expert, and become irreplaceable. But also just start and commit to it and be able to pivot. So when I decided, okay, I'm not going to be able to live on $12,000 a year. Like, that's not going to be working out for me next year. Okay, how can I, instead of shutting down the business and doing something else or going back to full-time ministry or whatever, I decided to pivot and say, okay, what can I do to make the profit that I need and fill the holes in the market? And so we transitioned to Pilates, and now we're here. You know, as a successful business, but you will make mistakes along the way, and those mistakes will help you fine tune your business. Like, even now, 4 years in, my husband and I were like, we're still finding like holes in our business. Like, okay, we need to fix this. We need to close the back door. Retention rates, membership prices need to tweak. Like, you're always going to have to evolve with your business. And I think that's a good business owner, is the one who learns how to pivot and evolve with their business. And just commit to it. Yeah.
No. All excellent responses, and I'll just kind of piggyback off of a few things that you guys said. I'm going to say something that's probably not the most popular for the room, and it kind of goes against the entrepreneurial spirit. One of the things that I firmly believe is that you have to learn how to be a good follower before you become a good leader.
That's good.
Right. And so I know Quinn mentioned it. I know everybody mentioned that they had a form of employment prior to them going into their entrepreneurial pursuits. And so these brick and mortar buildings, whether it's a restaurant, a retail store, whatever, there has to be something there. One, for them to be able to pay the rent, be able to hire people, to be able to sell a product. So there's something inside of that business that is of value to you. And I get passionate about this because I see people online and they're wanting to, I hate my job, I want to become my own boss. Well, when you become your own boss, at some point you're gonna want somebody working for you, right? And so how do you learn how to identify the traits and characteristics that you don't like? How you identify the things that you do like? You go practice, and so don't be afraid to go and get a job. Learn at that job, understand the systems and processes, and when it's time for you to become that owner and have that chain of whatever stores that you're going to have, you'll have a greater appreciation of how to treat people, and you'll be surprised you'll miss out on some of the pitfalls because you learned how to be a great follower first. So that's number one. Number two, that's a saying that we say in our business, and I think this you echoed this a lot. Well, actually, everybody did. Be married to the vision, but flirt with the methods.
Yeah.
Be married to the thing that you're passionate about, this idea, but don't get stuck on how you go about doing it. Guaranteed. I look at it like this. Who, raise your hand if you've ever had DoorDash before, or you've had meal delivery before. Okay, now raise your hand. Does the delivery driver put it on your front porch and then they leave and then you open the door and you grab it off the front porch? Yeah, raise your hand if they do that. Well, a few people. Pre-COVID, that would have never happened.
Right.
Pre-COVID, there would have been donkey of the day or whatever you want to call it if a delivery driver would have put, but we encountered something that we've never seen in our world before, and that changed the trajectory on how we go about doing business. And so don't get fixed on how you want to do it. get fixed on why you're doing it, get fixed on the passion around it, and then at that point tinker with it, or get curious about the things that you're doing. And I've heard each of you guys say that, so that was awesome. Next question: how can teens develop resilience and overcome the fear of failure? Take it. You got it.
Okay. Like I say, overall, kind of one of the things that was in my mind, that was in my spirit when I first started was, you, in order to stay busy, you have to find the problem and become the solution to the problem. And you'll always stay busy. Find the problem and become the solution. So just like he mentioned earlier, just 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 think about when you're at school. We always hear people complain. That's almost just human nature, right? But of all the people that are complaining, how many people, number one, are trying to get to a solution? And number two, how many people are actually listening to make the solution lucrative? You can start a whole business off of that, you know? So again, you don't think, especially when it comes to social media, things change so fast, and you guys see that all the time. If any of you ever tried to have a video and it go viral, it's like, okay, use the for your page hashtag, or use this hashtag. But mind you, it could be months later and that hashtag doesn't really put whatever it is or whatever information that you're trying to put out into the algorithm at all. So just like she was saying earlier as well, you have to be able to adapt, because the thing about it is, as a builder myself, you know, a lot of times when I encounter older people, they'll say, I might try and show them something. They would say, I'm good. I've been building cabinets for 40 years. But the thing is that the tools from 40 years ago have changed, right? So a lot of times, even in my life, I can build better than somebody that's been building longer than me, for the simple fact that I learned to be efficient in what I'm doing. So if you have somebody that's been building cabinets, just doing things for the same way for 40 years, that's perfectly fine. But if I have the tools that I need to be more efficient, I could save money. If I'm saving money, then I can, in turn hire people to do things. And then even from that, I could have a whole crew that's working. I might be at home, I might be on vacation, but that doesn't change the fact that I have a thriving business. So, again, as I mentioned earlier, you can't be scared of failure, because realistically, you got to think about it. Think about, when you start having when there were problems with, how you were saying earlier, about COVID and things of that nature. You have certain businesses, airlines, if something goes wrong, they're missing out on millions of dollars per day. So let's just say that you had a problem in your business and it might cost you $5 a day. Would you rather consider that a blessing, that, okay, I'm losing out on $5 a day, but let me see how I can structure it to where I could fix that issue, as opposed to where you have this multi-million-dollar business and now you have a problem of missing millions of dollars a day? You know, it's two different scales. So again, like they stated earlier, you can't be scared of failure, but also keep in your mind that anything that you might fail at, seek guidance. Don't have such an ego about yourself that you can't speak to the next person about, what it is that you want to do. Realistically, I do that all the time. I'm a licensed barber. If I see somebody cutting hair and doing a great job, I'm gonna go to their shop. I'm gonna ask them, how do you do this? Or how can I better do that? Because realistically, any information that I learn is only gonna make me more of an asset. So don't look at your failures as such a downfall. Sure, it might cost you some money. Sure, it might cost you some time, but in the long run, it's gonna make you more efficient. It's gonna help you to grow your business.
And I just want to add to that. I read some. You said something early in your talk that made me think of something that I read earlier today, and it basically said predicting that it is going to rain doesn't count, but building the ark does.
Right.
Right? Anybody can walk outside and go, "Hey, it's going to rain today." But who's going to develop the solution for the issue? So that's what I heard you say. You spoke to that, so that was good. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think changing the perspective of I have a fear of failure to I have a fear of missing out. Like, what if it goes well? I think I know I personally tend to focus on the negative, and that can bring fear into what my hand is on and what I'm working on. But I think as I've evolved with my business, I've had to ask myself, instead of like, what if I fail? Well, what if it goes well? Like,
Right.
what if this pops? Like, what if this hits? What if I, bring 50 new clients in 1 month and half of them stay? I think that we're young and we can recover. And you guys obviously are young and you can recover from failure. But I think that it's important to lead yourself with the perspective of like, I don't want to miss out on if this goes well. I think that if I would have walked away from my business, year one into it when I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to, I feel like I would be in a really different place. And it wouldn't be necessarily a bad place, but I think I would have the fear of what if? What if I would have stuck with it? And so you have to choose your hard, right? You have to choose your fear. You can either choose to have fear of failure, or you can choose to have a fear of like almost FOMO, like what if this works and I'm not a part of it? You have to have that perspective shift.
Awesome.
I'll add one more thing and just say timing is everything. Don't get caught in analysis paralysis. I don't know if y'all know what it means. When you're so trying to get it right, you never just start. And then just be ready to pivot. And I like to say, I think y'all are resilient already. I used to tell people before I was 30 years old, I remember 9/11, the financial crisis of 2008. Now we've got a global pandemic. Like, y'all are resilient just being alive every day. So take that energy and put it into business.
No, excellent, excellent. And I'm just going to echo the same thing that they've said. Like, a few years ago, I say a few, maybe 8 years ago, I've had this idea of wanting to be a keynote speaker. I wanted to go do stuff like this and podcast. And I bought mics, and that paralysis analysis. I got to have the right mic. I got to have the right computer. I got to have the right setup. I gotta have these lights over here. I got to make sure this is that. And you keep psyching yourself out in your mind, and you keep creating what essentially is these excuses as to why you won't be able to do what you do. And I'm not encouraging you guys to go do this. If you listen to the first podcast I did versus the ones I'm at now, I wish I can just delete all of those and start all the way over, because I feel like I'm so much better because I got the reps in. And I think I kept hearing what you guys say. Like, I tell people it's all about the reps. Anybody in here work out?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody in here work out? Oh, for sure you work out. Yeah,
a little bit.
But when you first approach that bar, I mean, guys in here who bench, when you first got underneath that Olympic bar, you might have put a 25 on there maybe. So you might be struggling with that still, but you keep working on it. You get up to a plate, you get up to 2 plates. It's all about the repetitions, and the more reps you get, the stronger you get, the more confident you get, the more you believe in doing it. My pastor always says, fail forward.
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
So things won't go right, may not go right. And here's the thing, I feel. Now, I don't say I feel bad for y'all necessarily, but you guys are the social media era.
Right.
Everything you guys do has to be on camera, has to be in front of your friends, and it has to be the perfect angles, right? What Drake say, the views, you got to have your view right. And y'all are checking y'all's views, checking your likes, checking all these different things. Don't get consumed with how many people are seeing what you're doing. Get consumed with who is seeing what you're doing.
Right.
I get in my own head sometimes. I think I made a fire piece of content. I'm gonna post it up and it's gonna go crazy, and then it's like falls flat. Then the stuff that I really wasn't trying to do good on takes off. So you just kind of keep attempting. There's a biblical concept. Get up every day and put your hand to the plow and watch what happens. And so, anything else, guys? Awesome. What are the unique advantages teens have today in the business landscape?
Okay, I'll go ahead. Just like I was saying to you guys earlier, for me, just looking at things, you always felt that you needed a mentor per se, somebody that I could work under, which is not a bad thing at all. But, once I really realized the age of information, what I was capable of doing, you don't necessarily have to have a person, just like you were saying a second ago. A lot of times you'll psych yourself out like, well, somebody didn't teach me that, or, this or that. But again, you guys are in the age of information. So it's just like literally like with TikTok. I mean, sure, just as much as you can go on there and find the coolest dances and stuff like that, if you want to find something, to turn into a business, you could definitely do that. The information is there. So it's like really having the information at the touch of your hand. When you start hearing about just job crisis and this and that, it allows you to pivot, because again, think about it. You have people that have gone to school 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, in a way that things are happening in the economy. Like sometimes these people that have dedicated, 4 to 8 years to going to school have jobs that completely let them go, you know. But on the other hand, especially with the younger generation or people that are paying attention to social media and things like that, it could be a business as simple as maybe you want to sell cookies or maybe you want to sell pens, and something that simple could turn into $1 million business. And this is something that you could do out of your home. A lot of times when you think about entrepreneurship, especially like, me growing up, automatically, when you think of business, first thing you're thinking about is brick and mortar. Just like she stated earlier, nobody's like, I want to do work out of my living room or extra bedroom or something like that. We're automatically thinking brick and mortar. But at the same token, when you're talking about social media and people can go to your website and funnels and websites and different things of that nature, your inventory doesn't have to be a warehouse. It could be at your house, and then you can grow from there. So whenever you have a platform and you have, the information to do certain things, you can literally start off small. And if you blow up and you want to, get a warehouse or you want to get a bigger business, you could do that. But it doesn't necessarily put you in a category to where you have to have a brick and mortar and you've, went into hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt. And then now you're trying to find your way. Imagine you wanted to start a business selling pens or cookies or something like that. And maybe it didn't work out, but the most you had invested in it was like $100. And then you can move on to the next thing that you might have a passion for, something that might be lucrative. Or when you look at the analytics to see, okay, what do people in my neighborhood or my city, what's something that could help them? You could gravitate towards that without it being something that's super expensive. So, the age that you're in right now to where you have literally any information just about that you want at the click of your hand, just use it for that. And I'll just say this before I end, is just that for me, one thing that helped me start with entrepreneurship was that, raise your hand if you have an iPhone. Okay, so every Sunday, it gives you a notification letting you know how many hours you have been on your phone, right? Per day. So I know for me, I'm doing better. I think I'm down maybe between 6 and 8, but it used to be something crazy. So if your phone tells you that you're on your phone 10 hours a day, and for some of y'all, that's including while you're in school and still somehow pulling off 10 hours worth of holding your phone here. Now imagine you had an 8-hour shift, right? So let's just say you spend out of that 10 hours a day that you're on your phone, you just spend 2. Hey, I'm gonna do research. I'm gonna try and develop a website. I'm gonna do something positive towards my goals or what I want to make happen. You could do it. The information is there. You just have to want it. So
What he just said was a cheat code, and I know y'all might not even care to do this, but pay attention to that screen time. Whenever that feature rolled out, I was surprised how much time I was spending on social media. And I would always my theme. Yeah, you ask my kids, you ask my wife. Oh, you don't have time for this. You don't have time for that. That screen time will check you and keep you accountable to what you say you have time for. So if you guys got big dreams out there, your phone's going to tell you how you're spending your time. So that was a really good point.
I think also, like the world we live in now, the older generation is so much more open to learning from the younger generation. And I think that's like your biggest opportunity is, I mean, I started my business at, I think, 22 years old, and I was teaching like 55-year-olds how to like do Pilates, and they were trusting me. Like they trusted me at 22 years old to teach them and to guide them and to you know be a part of their fitness journey with them. Now I'm 27, and I have one of my oldest private clients. I think he's like 85, 86 years old, and he is on that reformer Pilates machine doing side splits and lunges and all kinds of things. And I think that's the world that we live in. Like, we have so much access at the touch of our fingertips. Like, it is so easy to connect with other business owners through social media. A lot of, like, for me, my industry, like, a lot of people have online like workout programs and stuff like that. And so I'll just go on their website, right? And I'll do the 2-week tutorial, like the 2-week trial that's free, and I'll see what they're doing. Like, okay, their revenue's great. They have a bunch of clients. Let me see what they're doing. Let me learn from them. And become the expert. And it doesn't matter how young you are. I think the older generation is far more open these days to learning from us. And that's so powerful, and knowledge is power. So you have to leverage that and understand, like 1 Timothy 4:12, like, don't let anyone else look down on you because you're young. Like, this is like, I mean, that was almost 2000 years ago, that someone said that. And I think now we have to be able to walk in confidence and say, you know what, I'm going to put the hard work in, I'm going to put the hours in, I'm going to become the expert at 21 years old. And I think that that's leverage and power. Yeah.
Awesome. And I just want to piggyback on that. Just because you are the expert, that doesn't mean you don't stop learning. She said that, right?
Yeah.
And what I like to call what she did was a little research and development, right? She
Yeah.
went into those other websites and saw what those other people are doing. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because you always want to get better. If you're at the top of your organization that you're trying to build, at the top of your business, you got to understand that you're at the top at that point.
Right.
Someone's looking at what you're doing. Someone's looking at, okay, I work at Chick-fil-A, right? I think we, for the last 10, 15 years, have been in the top 5, top 3 in customer. So every measurable in the QSR environment, we've been number 1. I can't tell you how many times people from other restaurants come into our restaurant to try to take employees, see what we're doing, want to have sit downs to talk about what our business is. And here's the secret. I don't care. I'll tell you what we do. I'll tell you everything you want to know about our business. It's up to you if you're going to execute.
Yeah.
Right? It's up to them to go take back the information that they got, just like you guys are sitting in this room. It's up to you to take that information and then go to implement it into your lives. And so I love that you brought that up.
I'll just add, y'all have technology. That's, I think, the biggest differentiator. I grew up with Google. Y'all have AI. I would just caution you, use it for good.
Right.
Figure out the good stuff, but also I'm a big believer in learning from the past and blending it. Because if everything went down and you don't have a computer and you don't know how to do something, it's going to be the people who did it by hand. So it's like, it's finding that beautiful blend where I still understand the core, but let me take this technology and something you did in 8 hours, I'm going to show you how to do it in 10 minutes. So finding that perfect middle.
She brings up a excellent point. When I was in middle school, I know you guys are a little bit far removed from middle school. I walked to the library to use the computer and the internet. Right? Can you imagine having to do that today? There's no way. My man Quinn said you guys are in the information age. I would say that's on steroids because you guys have AI. Anything, if you don't have Chat GPT on the front of your phone, I don't know what you're doing. And I don't know if everybody believes in that or not. But anytime you say, oh, I don't know something, and then you don't pull your phone out and go ask the question, and it'll give you an idea of what you like. There's no excuse not to know something.
Right.
It scours the internet and gives you answers in seconds. I don't know about y'all. The first time I used Chat GPT, I dropped my phone. No, seriously. I mean, imagine you've made business plans, which we're going to move into that in a second. You know how long it takes for you to put all your thoughts out, and then it's chicken scratch, and then you start formatting, and you have somebody read it, and Chat GPT does it in 30 seconds. It almost makes you feel old and antiquated a little bit, and if you're not using it, then you're behind. So we're going to move forward into business plans, and I guess for the audience, what are some key components in writing a business plan in you guys' opinion?
Well, I mean, you definitely want to have the vision of what it is that you want to do, and it's like you can't be general. You need to know specifically what it is that you want to do, where you want to be, the roles of the people, whether you have a nonprofit, if you got board members, if you got employees, like all of these things play a critical role. Like for me, whenever just to kind of really hone in on what it is that I was doing, because when I first started cutting hair, it's just like it's like starting from scratch, because everybody's better than you, or a lot of people already have relationships established with these barbers, so you have to start looking at it. What can I do differently that nobody else is doing? That's one misconception in business, is that, okay, if I want to do something to stand out, it's got to be something expensive, and that's not necessarily true. So the first thing that I started doing was, when I first started, I mean, it was a blessing. It moved pretty fast. I was working in a shop a year, and then I actually had my own suite. So just as he was saying earlier, well, really both of y'all were saying about being able to adapt, because COVID had happened right when I was in barber school. So most time people tell you, go to a barber shop, a lot of walk-ins, you can build your clientele that way. I did a suite because I understood people wanted to be somewhere where there weren't a lot of other people around. When you compare being in a barber shop, it's kids running around, kids coughing, stuff like that, as opposed to being in a suite. It just kind of had more of an upscale feel to it. So I started looking at just all the barbers that are around me. I'm looking at how long they've been cutting. I'm looking at the hours that they're cutting. I'm looking at the days that they're cutting, quite naturally, barbers are closed on Sundays and Mondays. So I would cut on those days because I know I did the research that, in this particular area, you have a lot of people that work at the plant, at the refineries. A lot of times these guys are only off on Sundays, potentially Mondays. So a lot of times when you corner the market, it really doesn't matter how much it costs. If you're the only one that does it on that specific day at that specific time, people have to pay you for whatever service that you're providing. So whenever you have a business plan, you need to do the specifics. Like, let's say, for example, you want to have a mechanic shop. That's general. Are you going to be specifically working on front end? Are you going to be a discount tire? Are you going to be working on tires? Are you going to be doing paint jobs? To say I work on cars is a very general statement. But you also have to look at the longevity of your business. Some people start businesses and end up selling. That's one thing that I've really been looking into lately, because the thing is that sometimes you have people that have a business and they plan, they'll tell you, oh, this is how I want to build a business. This is how much I want to make and things of that nature. But when you ask them what the end goal is, they really can't tell you. And sometimes when you have somebody that has a business and let's say the grandpa passes away and passes it on to the kids, naturally in our minds we think, okay, they're passing down a business, but they could be passing down debt. Maybe these kids don't even necessarily know how to run the business. Just like they stated earlier, because they haven't been in the realm of the business, they don't know how to adapt to what they need to do to survive in this particular period. So whether you want to start a business to sell a business, whether you want to start a business and have longevity, you need to know the particulars. Again, with being able to adapt to things may change over time. You may not have the same business plan 20 years down the line, but know specifically what it is that you want to do, who you're catering to. Look at the analytics. One important thing, I think I was on Instagram and somebody was explaining is that a lot of times naturally we have certain gifts and talents, and that's what we want to turn into something that's going to be lucrative. But at the same time, you have to sit down and look at the analytics. You have to understand the people. Don't always look for people to understand you. You have to understand people. Just like I gave y'all that scenario, you could be at school, you could be at different places, and you can hear people complain about different problems, but if you're going to be the solution to the problem, you actually have to hear to understand. And the way that you might handle a problem might not be that effective with everybody in that particular group. But you need to see what's needed, what's going to help, what's going to bring longevity. Sometimes you have businesses that, let's just say, for example, the medical industry. It could be something as small as a Band-Aid, you know, but that's only for temporary care. Then it could be medical as far as shots or flu shots or this and that. That might be something, or dialysis or something that'll kind of help people with more serious type things. But when you have something that's so general, when it comes to your business plan, you need to specify exactly what you want to do, exactly how you want to run things.
I would say you have to ask yourself the question, like, what am I good at? I think that now, especially now that we have social media, we see everyone doing their own thing, and we're like, oh, like, I want to do that. Like, what are you specifically good at? What are you passionate about? And so for me, I was ready to step out of full-time ministry and do something different. And I was like, well, I went to school for full-time ministry. I don't really have any other certifications or degrees other than this. So what am I good at? What am I passionate about? That I've been teaching dance for, over a decade at that point. So I was like, okay, well, I'm good at teaching and I'm really passionate about fitness. And so let's start there. And then you start fleshing out the specifics. But first you have to have a vision. First you have to know what you are good at. Don't go and look at someone else and be like, oh, I probably could do that better. What could you do? Like, what are you specifically good at? And you should do that and do a lot of it. And I also think you have to ask yourself, like, am I willing to work harder than anyone else in the room? Mm-hmm. Am I willing to work harder than anyone else in the room to bring a service that sets me apart from the rest? For me, it was, there was a hole in the market. I had found a hole in the market for Pilates in this area. Now, if I go to Houston, there's a Pilates studio on every corner. It's franchised. They have multiple locations. Like, you can go west side, north side, east side, and to the same studio. They have 5 locations in Houston. So for me, I did have an advantage because there was a hole in the market. So I would also suggest, what's the hole in the market? What you're good at fill a hole? If not, it doesn't mean not to pursue it. It just means, how are you going to do it better than the next person? How are you going to work harder than the next person who's doing exactly the same thing? How are you going to work harder than them? And there's that competitiveness, but there's also like that, what we were talking about, like, go to their website. Like, look into what they're doing. Like, look at their prices, look at their vision statement or their aesthetic of their website or their business. And it and a true artist doesn't come up with their own ideas. They steal really, really well, and they steal really good ideas and they make them their own. And I think that that's like imperative when you are creating a business plan. Like, be creative. That doesn't mean you have to come up with your own idea. You just got to be really good at stealing someone else's and making it 10 times better and working harder than them to make it happen.
I'm gonna hop on. So I didn't tell you guys, I'm a CPA by trade. Know your numbers. So actually, I like that. So I actually went to school for accounting, knowing I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I felt like if you can understand your numbers, and man, I've met people, they signed a 5-year lease, not even knowing how much money they were gonna make. Can they keep their overhead? And just, you will never know. It's just estimations and projections, but try to understand. Like, let's say you're buying a product and then you're reselling it. If you're buying that product for $20 and it's only gonna make $22, then you know, okay, this is probably not a good deal because I still have to pay shipping, I have to pay this, I have to pay that. So I think that's the importance of a business plan. You need to sit down and set the vision and say, these are all the things I need to do to make this happen. And the other thing I'll add, a lot of times I say in business is entrepreneurship can look like two things. You can create a job for yourself where you're self-employed, or you can create a business where you're on a beach in the Bahamas for 2 weeks and your business is still running. A business plan helps do that. Someone can step in and say, okay, this is the vision for the company. This is what we need. You'll find something as you guys grow up and they call them SOPs, standard operating procedures. So I can come on day one and follow step for step. What are you doing? And a business plan is like that. Like, this is our vision. These are the customers we want. This is the market we want to go after. This is what we want to target. And it just helps you have a roadmap. It's kind of like Google Maps. Like, this, I'm putting in this address. This is where I want to end up. I want to make this much money. I want to do this. And these are the lefts and the rights I'm going to take to get there.
Excellent. And I'll just add 2 things to that. Okay. In writing a business plan, okay, just because you hit save when you're done doesn't mean you can't go back and change it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's going to be things that you wrote in January that may not be applicable no more in April. And you have to go back and make some adjustments. And so don't be afraid of, don't think you have to make this first iteration be perfect. It can have some mistakes, number one. Number two, and I think you touched on this a bit. Think about what it is that you want. Why are you starting a business, right? To create an income for yourself and to be able to take care of yourself, your family. If you got some mission work that you want to do, maybe you want to contribute to some things of that sort. Figure out what your number is or what you think your number is that you want to extract from that business, and then we'll start working backwards and figuring out what you need to do month to month, week to week, day to day to be able to make that happen. A lot of people say, oh, I'll make $1 million a year. Okay, well, what does that average out to per month? What does that average out to per day? Okay, what product are you selling? Okay, your product average ticket is $20. Well, how many of those do you guys sell in order to get to $1 million worth of profit? And knowing your numbers, just because I see people all the time, they got a package or a course they're selling for $1,000. Well, how much money did it take them to create that package or create that course? It might have cost them $800 in production and hosting and and all those different things. And so they only might be making $200 off of that sale. So knowing your numbers and reverse engineering from where you want to be to what you need to do each and every day to make it happen. And the last thing I'll say on that, and I think this may be referencing something we said before. You mentioned a lot about, are you putting the hours in? There's this principle, this 10,000 hour principle, right? And that says that if you put 10,000 hours into something that you're passionate about, at the end of that 10,000 hours, it's assumed that you could hit that expert level or mastery. But until you've put the 10,000 hours in, you can't expect yourself to be that. So for anything that you want to do, ask yourself the question, have I put the hours in yet? Realistically, think about that. A lot of times we think, again, Quinn, you were saying this earlier, I see it on social media. It should happen when I put that Valencia filter on. Well, I might be dating myself a little bit when I say that. When I put that filter on, this ought to do it. It's a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Next question: what are some mistakes you think young entrepreneurs make in developing their business plan?
I feel like it could be a rush sometimes. Like I said, a lot of times we're looking on from the outside looking in, when you think about success, it's always something like literally our food is quick, our success is quick. Like when things start to take too much time, we feel like it's unsuccessful or, it's not gonna work. But, I actually had to go cut hair this morning. I was talking to a guy that I was cutting, and it's just that, a lot of times, you know, an apple tree doesn't get recognition until we actually see the apple on the tree, right? So nobody, when we see a tree, a lot of times when we don't see anything on it, we could really care less. We're not looking at the time it took for somebody to plant it. We're not taking the time to look at, somebody catering to the soil. We're not looking at somebody had to water it. We're not looking at somebody had to pull the weeds. We're not looking at somebody had to prune the limbs, right? Yeah. And all of this is done even before you see one apple, right? So one thing you have to do is really slow down. I know a lot of times the world around us just seems like it really moves fast, but you don't want to move fast. You want to be able to move correctly in whatever it is that direction that you want to go. And just like he stated earlier, sometimes those things can change, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with change. Change is inevitable. Inevitable. It can change. Things can change by the day, the month, the year. It can change by even some of the products that you're doing. If you're doing analytics and seeing, like for example, with me, I started off a lot of the content that I was creating was building. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's just other guys or husbands at home that are trying to learn how to do different things. But when I actually look at the analytics, I'm starting to see that I think it was 90% of the people that were following me were women from the age of like 35 to 44. So once you get out of your own thinking and see who's actually paying attention to you, who you can cater to, it would make sense. Like, sometimes I would build dog feeders. That's cool. But then sometimes I would build like Hollywood vanities where the ladies would do their makeup. So it would make more sense for me to build things to cater to the people that are in that specific audience. So sometimes you got to go through a few things before you can really get your business plan right where you want it to be. Yeah. But if you know what you're trying to sell, as long as you're paying attention to the analytics, you can always tweak it. So never be in a rush. Like I said earlier, so many times when we see successful people, we don't see the 10 years prior that nothing happened for them. We don't see the amount of failed businesses that they had before they actually had that one successful business. So get it out of your mind. And even how she was saying earlier about, we could see other people do things. I could give everybody in this room a recipe, and I guarantee you, everybody's plate or cookies or whatever is going to taste a little bit different. Some people might want a little bit more sugar. Some people might not even like a lot of sugar, things of that nature. So never, you have to understand that you are the best at what you do. You know yourself better than anybody else knows you. So once you figure out what you're able to offer, and then also seeing, what your target audience is, that's going to help you to develop it. So sometimes you got to step back. Sometimes you got to slow down. But for the long run, that's something that's going to help you, especially when it comes to your business plan.
Yeah. I think I say young, I'm young. I think for me, I'll speak for myself. I think a downfall that I could have trying to start a business is focusing too much on the outcome and not enough on the process. Right. I think that success does not happen overnight. I don't believe that at all. I think you can be successful for a day. But I think that if you are committed and married to the process, that brings longevity to see the outcome. And I think that we, as young entrepreneurs, I think it's important to keep the outcome out there as the vision, right? As the goal. But if we're just so hyper focused on the outcome, I think we can fail in the process. And if we're able to focus and enjoy the process of building a business from the apartment complex to the 10 by 10 square foot office space, I had to turn the reformer machine diagonally to shut the door. Like, like I had to go through a process. It wasn't until year 3 that we had a brick and mortar. And I think that evolution, being a part of it, enjoying the evolution of your business creates longevity. And, we all know the statistic of like every business, like it either is successful or fails between 3 and 5 years, right? And I think the main common denominator of either failing or being successful is the process and how well you do the process to see your outcome. And that takes patience, and that takes time, and that takes pivoting, and that takes going back to the vision that you wrote and maybe tweaking it and changing it, finding again holes in the market. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that we can fall into temptation of, is like looking at someone else's outcome and being like, I want that outcome. Whereas really we just need to, one step at a time, be faithful with what our hand is put or holding on to. What am I doing today? Like, what is it I'm doing today? Do I want my business to be a franchise one day and have multiple locations? Yes, great. What am I doing today, though? That's the process. Am I going to greet that new client that's coming through the door 5 seconds within them coming through the door? That's the process. That's how you get to your outcome. And I think weighing that tension, understanding the outcome is important, and we have, the numbers don't lie, right? And we can track that and make goals and create goals to get there, but you have to be committed to the process in order to see the goal.
And I think what you brought up kind of speaks to the differentiation between someone who's just working in the business versus an entrepreneur that's working on the business.
Yeah.
One of the things I always say at work, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? But in addition to that is that if I'm only looking at the numbers and I'm not experiencing what's going on, I'm missing a facet of the picture. So I love that you said that.
I just added that. Any sports fan in here? Sports people. So I'm a big sports person. So I look at it as, I'll take the Rockets, for example. The business plan is to Carli's point, you have your small goals and your long-term goals. So I think of it in the draft. So Rockets haven't been to the playoffs since 2019, but we've been drafting higher numbers, getting there, and now we're really good. So those were all short-term goals to get to the hopefully long-term goals of, we're going to win a championship. We're going to get there. So you got to think of your business like this. Like, okay, who do I need to draft this year? What do I need to do this year? What do I need to do this year until let me get to this big goal in the end? So just take it down in bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Success doesn't come overnight. And one thing I'll tell you guys in business, you can be up here at 10 a.m. and you can be down here at 10:30. So celebrate the wins when they come and just try to plan accordingly.
And I want to piggyback off of your Houston Rockets example, if I may, because that's you bring up a really good example. And there was one other thing that happened to the Rockets that I think really ties this together. What else happened other than the draft picks? What else did they do?
They had to get a new coach.
The head coach, right? And I think a lot of times, and for those of you who are in it who have aspirations for being in business, you're probably extremely talented. You're probably really good at what you do. You really like what you want to do. But if you don't have the right coach, if you don't have the right mechanism, if you don't know how to run a business, there's a lot of people I see all the time that start a business because they're super talented at what they do, but they fail at the numbers piece of it. They fail at at learning how to treat people or the process of customer service. That talent goes out of the window because they don't have. It's not insulated by the right support system. I think that was the one of the key things to the Rockets' success. All those guys were good, but until they got another coach there and there's new ownership there, until those things started to happen. So in a lot of times when you're starting your business, you're a one-man band most of the time, right? And I was going to transparently say, I think the last 2 or 3 businesses I started with an idea in my notes. It wasn't this masterfully written idea. I just said, this is what we want to do. And then as we started to do more things, we started to acquire more sales. I told myself, I said, we need to formalize some of these things, right? Like once we started adding more people in my coaching business, it was me by myself for a while. Now I've got 4 other coaches working with us, 2 or more in Baytown, and one of them is in Virginia. So my thing's got to be kind of tight in order for us for me to translate what's going on. So I'll say that to say, to get started, start. If your business plan is 2 sentences, 3 sentences, get started, but don't neglect it though. Right? Get back to it, put more emphasis on it as you continue to grow, as people start taking you more seriously. I love the fact that you said you started out with working with 55-year-olds. Probably not your target demo.
Right.
Probably not who you wanted to work out with, but that was who was willing to listen. Who was willing to show up. That was willing to. So as you're practicing getting through the things that you thought was going to work, and then you notice that don't work, and you're using that body of folks until you get to the right people.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm going to transition into, we're about to get into Q&A, but I got one more question for the panel. What's one piece of advice you wish you would have received as a young entrepreneur?
It's a great question.
I'll start
Okay.
as you guys. I think for me, I think one of my poorest habits as a leader or entrepreneur is thinking that everything has to be right. And so as I started, I work at Chick-fil-A, and everything we do, or at least we attempt to do, I ain't gonna front, is trying to be as excellent as possible. One of the things that True Kathy says is that perfection is the goal, but I'll accept excellence, right? And so that's what we kind of try to walk into every day with. Now, I've been doing that for 20 years. So that's the way my brain is geared. So when I start to do something else outside of that, I start to try to apply that same level of thought. Now, here's the deal. I don't have the Chick-fil-A checkbook, though. Right? I don't have the Chick-fil-A checkbook. I know whenever, and I see one of my peeps in here. I noticed you back there. But anytime something breaks, I can go to an app in my phone and say, hey, this is broken, and they're going to send us out a new one. Hey, this computer is down, that's down, or whatever's going on. There's somebody in Atlanta that I can call to say, hey, can you get somebody over here? Hey, I need somebody to come fly a drone to tell me the traffic patterns of our drive-throughs and make sure we're more efficient. Now, I'm gonna gather the guess most of you guys won't have that capacity when you first get started. And if you do, God bless you, right? But just get going with the resources that you have. Understand the regulations in the business that you're trying to get to. Side thing, I didn't mention this, but I have 3 other partners that I've went in with on a food truck, and we do tacos, and so we're into food, and again transferring that same level of excellence from food to from what we do at Chick-fil-A to what we're doing with the food truck. And you guys might go. I know this guy Joshua Knowlton. I rent a space in his commissary, and one of the things he would tell me all the time is, "This is not Chick-fil-A." Understand what the requirements are and meet the requirements. You guys try to go above and beyond what the requirements are. And so understand what you have to do to participate and do the best you can there.
That's good. I think, as a young entrepreneur myself, it's easy to put your hand to multiple things at one time, because you have the energy, you have the capacity. As someone who's young, you have the passion and the drive to do it, and those aren't bad things. I think one thing that I'm learning currently now is just to do one thing really well. Like, become the expert in one area of your business, do that really well, perfect it, make it excellent, like you were saying, and then step into the next thing. I think when we have our hands in multiple things, like we're trying to start this business and this is kind of getting up and running and we have some profit, great, let's go on to the next thing. Let's open the new location. Let's add this service. I don't think those things are wrong. I just think we can miss out on cultivating something really excellent when we are too quick to move on to the next thing. And so I think that's one piece of advice I wish I had earlier on. Now that I've gotten smarter, and I have a business mentor and we meet once a week, and he's like, hey, one thing, focus on one thing. I'm like, well, I have all these questions about this part of the business and my staff and my instructors, and I'm about to have a baby in May. I'm like, okay, so what does that look like when I come back in June? He's like, well, why don't you just leave in May first, and then we'll talk about June when we get there. And so I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give that I wish I had earlier on is, whatever you're putting your hand to, do it really, really well. Put your hand on one thing and make it excellent. And then ask some advice before moving on to the next thing.
I want to piggyback with her, because what I said, and I wish someone had told me this younger, you can have it all, just not at the same time.
Yeah.
And then the second one I would say is that you don't have to do it all yourself. So you do need experts, but you don't have to be the expert. You can find partners, collaborators, hire contractors. So just learning that, like, it doesn't have to all be on your shoulders, and learning to grow the team.
Yeah, I'm a piggyback off both of them. Definitely, regardless of how gifted and talented you are, you have to get to a point to where you're delegating things, because at the end of the day, you're only one person. So being able to have somebody, like you were saying, your CPA, your accountant, your janitor, different things of that nature, that's how you could definitely be more efficient. And to what you were saying, definitely, I've been guilty of it, because I I custom build furniture. I'm a barber. I mean, it's a multitude of things I do, but you have to look at it. When you're trying to build something, are you going to come to someone and say, check out this house that I built over the last 10 years? Or are you going to say, these are the 5 different foundations that I built? But yet you have no framing, you have no sheetrock, no anything of that nature. So if you're going to build something, just like she said, one thing at a time, and then from there, if you want to have a second location, or if you want to try and do a different business, you can do that as well. But for me, I would say one thing that I really wish I would have learned early on was consistency. Uh, a guy explained it to me years ago, just saying that, it's a reason that they call it a starving artist. And even when I started, I think because it was something that I had a passion for, I really didn't look at any business aspects of anything. I just really felt that I would live off the skill and talent that I had, because I was doing a lot of things that other people weren't doing. But when you think about it, like, if it's somebody that you watch on Instagram, if it's somebody that you watch on, TikTok or Facebook, whatever the case may be, whenever you're checking for that person, you know, it's a consistency. So if you have somebody that posts so content, but they post every day, our social media makes our attention spans very small. We could be talking about something 1 minute, at a snap, it's on to the next subject, right? So it's all about consistency. So even if you have subpar, criteria that you're putting on social media, the fact that you're doing it every day or every morning, you have your podcast at 8 a.m., people will tune in. But if you're only doing it once a week, they might go by this and that, but it's the consistency that's going to help you go to where you need to be. Because realistically, when you think about it, you have a lot of people that are skilled and talented that may not have any business sense. Then on the other hand, you also have people that I feel like we all have some type of gift or talent, but you may have people that don't really express their gifts and talents, and maybe they just know business well. You have a lot of people that make money off of skilled and talented people that might not have the business sense to do it themselves, right? So you want to be consistent in whatever you do. You definitely want to put out some type of quality to reach your audience and things of that nature, but don't get boggled down, because as he was mentioning earlier, sometimes it's that one thing that you do and you like, oh man, it's going to be fire. I know I'm gonna get 1 million views off of it. And it's quite the opposite. But then because realistically, look at the content that we look at on social media. A lot of these people are using their iPhones. A lot of times, they're standing on the side of a building. Even when you have a website, let's just say, for example, you have uh let's say you have a donut business, right? So when you have a donut business in town, it might be a brick and mortar. It might not necessarily have all the bells and whistles, might be a little, run down. But let's say if they started making online sales, they could put the background of Miami palm trees and all these different things. So as far as when you're doing e-commerce or doing stuff online, it's really the imagery that you give people, and that's what's going to complement the different things that you do. But mainly be consistent in what you want to do. Be consistent with following your business plan. Like, they've all said earlier, even if you got to tweak it to reach, certain goals, you could do it and exploit, you know, how we were saying earlier, you want to do things that kind of make you stand out. So let's say, for example, you make candles, right? So everybody in town makes candles, but everybody makes white candles. So you say, well, I know some people in town that might like blue, so I'm gonna be the only one in town that makes blue. So when you advertise, you could say, I'm the only candle business in Houston, Texas that makes blue candles, and you could say that, and it's the truth. And now you're exploiting something that sets you apart. And how much did it cost you to make a blue candle as opposed to a white candle? Probably pennies on the dollar. That's why I say it's not always going to take you doing something super expensive to make yourself stand out amongst other people. But do the analytics, see what they're doing, see what they're not doing. And in that way, you, like she said, you could find that loophole and then, just grow your business from there.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add to this, I know we're running close on time, Miles. Okay, cool. All right, but the last thing I'll add to this is that don't get mad at your friends and family when they don't buy your product. I can't tell you how many times we fell into the trap. It's like I posted on Facebook and I'm expecting all my aunts and all my cousins
Right.
and all my everybody. Hey, they gonna run it up first.
Right.
No, no. I'm sure you might have friends and families that attend other gyms. I'm sure you got friends and families get their haircuts in other places.
Right.
And we all got different shoes on. So it's one of those things where you are. I have a conversation with my wife about this all the time. We're in business to find our target customer, and our target customer isn't necessarily the people that we know.
Right.
Honestly, actually, I would prefer to do business with folks I don't know.
Right.
Because at that point, it's not a empathetic dollar. It's a dollar that I'm earning because I'm getting that attention from somebody else. And so that's all we have as far as our end of this. Thank you guys so much. Very good commentary. Questions before we dismiss, do y'all have anything y'all want to ask? Yes.
So to start a business or to get product, you always need money. Did any of y'all like have to take out loans or like find investors or like where did y'all get up money to start?
It's a great question. So for me, I again started in my apartment complex, so rent was free. I was already paying rent, like I was already paying it. The only thing I had to purchase was a $3,000 reformer Pilates machine. That's it. So I had to say, okay, what am I going to sacrifice on my own bank account? You know, I'm not going to get Starbucks. I'm going to start making coffee at home. I'm going to make some sacrifices. I'm going to learn how to cook food if I don't know how to cook. And I'm going to put these $3,000, set it aside. I'm going to bank on myself. I'm going to take the risk and say, I can make this $3,000 back plus some, and it would be worth it. So I know a lot of people do pull out loans at the beginning of their business. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you're just like a homegrown, like starting out of your house, make a sacrifice. Like take a sacrifice because you don't know what in 4 years. Like now I have 9 reformer machines. You can do that math, 3 times 9, and we pay off those reformer machines within a month. As long as I have a client's booty on that machine, we're paying it off. Yeah.
Excellent. And I'll just add to that. Like, I think you already said it in, you know, just your decisions, right? So you don't have to have the new iPhone every time it comes out.
Right.
Seriously. A lot of the things that I did to get started in entrepreneurship, it all came from financial decisions and things that me and my wife decided not to do. I lived my first house outside. I built a house in 2019, but the house we had before that is when we started our first business, and we intentionally stayed there longer than we financially had to in order to put money from what we were making into the business.
Yeah.
Right. And for perspective, right? There's grants, which is free money. There's programs where you can get free money, but if you're going to get a loan from a bank that funds your business, you have to come to the table with some level of credit and worthiness to say, hey, here's $400,000. I've got a friend that's opening a PJ's Coffee of New Orleans in Missouri City. And he recently sent me over his bid package for what it costs to build out that restaurant. It's $500,000. He had to have had something going for. Now he works for IBM. He works remote for IBM, so he has a really, really good job. But like I said in the beginning, do not be afraid of going to get that good job and doing a really good job at it. If you do a really good job at it, they'll promote you, they'll pay you, and you'll be able to take those funds that you make at that job. If you manage them well, you don't need every new pair of shoes, you don't need all the cool clothes. You can sacrifice those things in order to get to where you want to be. I think I seen Kevin Hart say it best. Be willing to live 5 years like nobody else would. Nobody else would. Right. So you can live the rest of your life like nobody else can. Right. And so that's what it's all about. Okay. So like I think I'm always of the belief of like trying to self-fund because you go out there and get a loan and you're not sure about what you're doing. You may not be able to satisfy that note, and then that goes on your credit, and you be trying to figure it out as long as you can. You have to, but try to put your own money up. You're gonna appreciate it more if you got your own money up. If you got your own skin in the game, if you got somebody else. Think about it. Your mom gives you money versus how if you had to go work for it, how you feel about it. If your mom is giving you the money, I don't care. I'm gonna go buy this and I'm gonna buy that because she's gonna keep giving it to me. If you gotta pay for it, it's a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Well, I'm gonna add, and shout out to my mom. She was always my first investor, but y'all, she made me work for it. Like I had to come with the presentation under plastic, set it down, have a little polo on. But I appreciated that. So when I got older, I knew I wanted to save money. I wanted to have my own business, and I also want to follow and say grants are a beautiful thing. Go for them. They exist. They're out there. And to y'all's point, just start. People are more likely to fund if they see, okay, you put your money into it, you're growing, I see traction, I see progress. They're more likely to jump in versus like, oh, unless I get money for this, I'm not going to start it. And you just kind of stall. Because then they're like, well, what happens when you run into a problem?
Yeah, very good. Next question. I'm coming to you next. I'll go here. Yes, ma'am.
So, as you guys know, it's one thing to start an online business versus a physical brick and mortar business. So, I just wanted to know what obstacles did you face starting a physical business that may differ from the difficulties of starting an online business?
More overhead. You have all the money you see coming in is not all yours.
Right.
And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. When you have a brick and mortar, it's beautiful. You got the keys. It's great. But all that profit, that's revenue that's coming in is not profit. When you have rent, electric, I mean, you have to pay a staff now. Unless you're cleaning the building, you got to pay a cleaner. Like, there's a lot more overhead when it comes to having a brick and mortar. And there's pros and cons to having online and both, but overhead would be the biggest obstacle. Yeah.
It doesn't stop. Rent's due on the first.
Yeah.
Every time. Your employees expect to get paid every time. I mean, we're seeing that. If you're from here, they got a couple of empty restaurants around here because they wasn't paying.
Right.
Somebody wasn't paying something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's difficult to balance that. The online business, I think it's good. It just depends on what you're selling, right? I don't know how. I think it'll be difficult for you to do what you do online. It would be really difficult to sell haircuts online.
Right.
But if you're doing something like the coaching side of my business, everything is online. I have an app. Everything is funneled through your phone because I think that's going to be the best place we can be competitive. But for my wife's interior design business, I think in order for somebody wants to see and touch the granite, they want to see the samples. Like it's just different, you know. So it depends on what you're doing, and your pricing plays a role in that too. And again, knowing your numbers but getting into brick and mortar and having employees is a whole lot more to the surface than what you know in terms of paperwork and all the things you got to do.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Our family is very entrepreneurial mindset. We're trying to start businesses and things like that. But we keep getting stuck in like you said, analysis paralysis. You know, it's just so degrading sometimes. What did y'all do that kept y'all motivated? Because it's hard.
Well, I'll say this. I think you got to ask yourself the question: what are you doing to invest in yourself personally, right? Like as an entrepreneur, if your family is very entrepreneurial, I'm assuming you guys are spending a lot of time pouring into other people, just pouring and pouring and pouring. But what's filling your cup back up? I think that would be the number one thing. Like, is a podcast, a book, a friend, a confidant. Like, you have to have that release because we all said it. I think at one point in time, there's going to be a tough day, a tough week, a tough season. And so unless you have that foundation where you're getting filled, then that's what it is. Number one. Number two, the naysayers are always louder than the people who are praising you. Right? I'll use a Chick-fil-A example. And I think Dion can attest to this. We talk about, hey, I'm sorry, I may put you on blast. We talk about cleaning the parking lot every 30 minutes to an hour. No one ever notices when the parking lot's clean. No one walks in and says, wow, there's nothing out here. You guys doing a great job of keeping the parking lot clean. But I guarantee you, if it's dirty and there's stuff everywhere, they're going to say something about it. Right. So just know that you're probably doing good work. You're probably doing a lot of good work, you and your family. It's just some haters don't hate. They're going to be everywhere, and you can't stop that. And let me tell you this. If you don't have somebody hating on you, you might be concerned about what you're doing.
Right.
I'm sorry, I might use a better word. If you don't have anybody giving you poor feedback, you might be concerned about what it is that you're doing. Because when people are starting to say something, I listen to a podcast and they say this: good or bad news is all press.
Right.
It's all press. Now, if there's something in that negative feedback that you know is true about what you do and you could do better, do better.
Yeah.
Get your feelings out the way. They're gonna happen. You're gonna be sad about it. But once you get over that, objectively say, all right, what did they say? Is that true? We could do better with that.
Yeah.
Let's adjust and then give them something else to look for to give us more feedback. Take that and use it to your advantage.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if you don't start, you won't know what to change.
Yeah, that's it.
I think like for us right now in my business, we are trialing some hot Pilates classes at our studio. And again, it's another hole in the market. The only other place that's doing hot fitness is a yoga studio, which yoga and Pilates are not the same, and Hot Works, which is very different than what we offer at our studio. So we found a hole in the market. Now, do I have the money right now to put those really nice infrared panels on my ceiling at my brick and mortar? No, I do not. So what are we doing to just start it? We're getting gasoline powered propane heaters and we're putting them on all four corners of the room because we found that space heaters don't work because it's going to blow the breaker. So we just started. And it's not perfect, and it's not, the heat is maybe not all the way on all four corners of the room evenly dispersed, but who else is doing it? And how do you know what to change if you don't start?
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I'll add just last thing too. It's not easy, but I'd say surround yourself with other entrepreneurial people. Sometimes I'm sure you got your parents to say, like, your parents say something you don't want to do it, then someone else tells you like, I get it. They're looking at you like I just said the same thing. So sometimes you need other people. You know, I always say you need people who are trying to get to where you are. You need people where you are. You need people that have already done what you want to do. So just having those conversations, and they may say something or give you a tool or a website or a resource or connect you to a person. They're like, hey, this person's gonna help you get through it. But like I'm telling y'all, it's so important. Just start, even if you can't see a way. Like starting is like literally to a point with electricity. Starting is like, okay, I put in the breaker, and then doing something else is like, okay, now we've hooked the electricity up, and eventually that light's gonna flip on. But if you never start, then 5 years later you're still sitting here in your dark room and you can't see your dreams.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yes, sir.
So you guys mostly talked about starting a business or how to stay motivated. However, I want to know what contingencies would you have when it comes to uncertainties, either an economic downturn or something unpredictable for your business, or in other words, what are your current risk management plans?
What?
Good question.
What?
Excellent question.
Okay,
That's great.
and I like that one.
Because I don't have a good answer. I got an answer, but I don't think you want. It's not a great answer.
You know, before I became a licensed barber, I was building furniture. You know, these are people that I might see once a year. I feel like that would be a loyal client per se, right? But one thing that made me want to get into barbering, because I researched a lot of it even before I started school. And one thing the lady said was that you know, it's recession proof, because realistically, like in Beaumont, we have a population maybe a little bit over 100,000, right? As a barber, you can suffice and do very well with even just 100 clients, 51 week A, 50 on week B, you know? And also, you know, things can slow down, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, people are gonna always need haircuts. And then you also gotta look even deeper, like professions. When you look at your doctors, your lawyers, you know, when you go to the doctor's office and they paying all that money, you want him to look like some type of something. You don't want him to look like he going through it, you going through it,
Yeah.
and it's just, you know, a big mess. So times can really change the particular people that you might deal with. But a lot of times, if you look at your product, how much of a need it is for that, or a product or a service, you know, that can really dictate what things will be like whenever, like you say, you have uncertain, you know, economic times or things of that nature as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think two of the, like personally for my business, two of the main um, things that we've started to run into. One is when someone sees your business going really well, they open one next door. And that's, you know, there's this competition of like, okay, are my clients going to stay here? Are they going to go try out this new thing? Everyone likes a new thing. So one, you have to be ready and willing to do some research, see what they're doing. It's not cheating. You're not cheating the system. You're just being knowledgeable. Like see what they're doing. Um, and for us, like there's a studio in town and they undercut us on all of our pricing. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be successful being the second cheapest option in town. I have to now be proud and confident about my quality and my prices. And how do I do that? I'm going to invest into my instructors. I'm going to put money where, you know, in my brick and mortar where it needs to be put. I'm going to upgrade the bathroom. You know, like I'm going to continue to set myself apart from this now competition. And then I think the second thing would be like I'm asking people to pay boutique fitness money to do the hardest thing, and that's to work out. No one wants to work out. Like no one actually really wants to work out. So now I have to find, as the business owner, how do I now create a language around fitness and working out that sounds enticing and that gives value to the client. And I think that those things, and also once you get to a certain point in your business, you should start putting money aside, a part of your profit aside for 3 months savings for your business. And that takes time. And that's like, I'm just starting that process now. But I think knowing that there are going to be competitors, like that's a contingency. There will be a competitor, as there should be. Like they see that my business is successful and they want to open something up, I'm flattered. Great, but I got to make sure I'm doing it better than them. And then secondly, just understanding like clients will come and go. You're going to have hard seasons. You're going to have really great seasons. January, new year, new me. Everybody wants to work out in January. But what about February? Right? Like the resolutions have worn off. So now what am I going to do as the business owner to pivot? Do we need to do promos? Do we need to give a discount? Do we need to say, hey, if you come 4 times this month, you get a free pair of Pilates socks? Like, you got to be able to, you can't be fearful of those things. You have to just expect them and be able to pivot when they happen.
And I'll just answer to you too. Don't bite off more than you can chew, right? I think for me, I don't get into anything that I can't pay for myself if it doesn't make any money. Like I don't like my current lease, current payroll, current overhead. I said, you know, in the coaching business, the overhead is very little because it's all in one. But the other one is absorbing it. But I say, well, what am I comfortable with if you don't make $1 this month? Most businesses don't make a lot of money in the first few years anyway. But
Right.
I've got to be at a place to where I can say, with savings or what I make it work, can I just throw that over there and not, and the family doesn't feel it? So just, I would say that it's a biblical principle, to keep going back to that, but you know, a man doesn't build a bridge without accounting for the cost. So if you account for the cost of what it is to be in the business and then say, hey, if this doesn't make nothing for the next 12 months, can I pay that bill?
Right.
And if you can, go for it. That's my biggest contingency. Like I said, I don't have the most technical answer. It's just that can I afford that if we wasn't making any money off of it? So, any other questions before we conclude? All right. Thank you guys so much. Sorry for going over on time. You guys are dismissed to go to y'all's next session.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.